Wow, what a distinguished panel. Tolu has two heads. He's literally the one that your parents say has two heads. Miss Colombe, big fan. So happy to have you in Lagos. And my dear brother Myroslav, welcome to Lagos. Choir, I would like us to begin with a moment of silence in prayer and reflection for the students that have been kidnapped in northern Nigeria yesterday and the day before, and to all the victims of violence all over the world. Thank you. You may sit down. Thank you, everyone. So we are here to talk about mainstream media and the loss of trust. When I am not at Ake making noise and disturbing everybody, I'm actually a lawyer, an arbitrator. I'm an accidental diplomat right now. So I actually went to school, though I behave as if I'm an agbero. So. Myroslav is a writer who focuses on frontline issues. Miss Colombe is an incredible writer of fiction and non-fiction books, about 12, I think.
Yes, and a journalist too.
Yes, so she also has two heads, by the way. And, Tolu Ogunlesi, three-time winner, CNN Journalist of the Year Award, African Journalist of the Year Award, one thing, another award. His CV is like a textbook. So to start, I would like to start with you, Ms. Colombe. Ladies first. Why do you think there has been a gradual loss of trust in mainstream media in the last 10 years?
Okay. My first job, a long time ago, I was a TV journalist for a program in France called Arrêt sur Image. And it was the first program of its kind. It was a program where journalists working on television and on media. We were monitoring what's happening on mainstream media, on the big station, and what kind of news we had in France. And we realized, well, when you're editing home, I don't know, doing a story for television, you edit things, you change things. You choose one image and not the other image. For instance, when I was working on French television, it was in 1994, so it was during the genocide of the Hutu in Rwanda. And it was very interesting to see how the French television, which was in French government, was involved in this genocide because the French army formed some of the militia and the Tutsi army, the Hutu army. So it was very interesting to see what kind of story we would tell, you know? There were very few stories about the genocide, but when the humanitarian aid arrived, then we did many stories. We sent some journalists in Rwanda, and it became a story. Because it was a good story for us, you know?
Why was it a good story for you?
Because for the French government and for the French army, certainly they have as a savior, you know, as a savior. So this is a good story.
Yeah.
Okay? So your question is very large, you know, but
I wanted you to say that because I wanted us to talk about this bias in the media of certain people as heroes and certain people as villains.
Of course.
Yes.
This is very interesting.
That's where I'm going.
Yes, okay. So
Excellent.
I think we all the same as journalists or as human beings. We want to know stories that are good for us. Because the reality is very cruel, the reality is very harsh, and the reality that we not good human beings, even ourselves, okay? We all think of ourselves, we are on the right path, we are a good person, we are not racist, but we are not. And neither our government, and neither our army, and neither our nation.
Okay, so, we'll come back to that.
Okay, so it's maybe too... Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll talk about that in depth. So, Lou, do you think, and I want you to answer this question with the context of Nigeria right now, do you think that political polarization has actually contributed to the loss of trust in mainstream media, coming from where everyone relied on NTA for news, and now anybody can be a journalist? So I want you to give us an answer based on this context of whether political polarization has led to loss of trust in mainstream media, or whether mainstream media has led to political polarization in our country.
Thanks. That's a good question. I always say this, that let's just go back to 1995 in Nigeria, and NTA was the only game in town in that sense. Mm-hmm. So at 9 p.m., all of us sat down, and NTA had the famous 30 million viewers, So whether it was arts and culture, whether it was news, the 9 p.m. news, we all watched it. We all kind of just believed what it said. This is the news. This person has been fired. There was a coup plot. There was this. If you wanted to question that, how did you question NTA 30 years ago? It was impossible. And then technology came and just smashed the whole thing up. And now, at that same 9 p.m. in 2025, if you sit down in any house, in any sitting room, the 6 people in the sitting room are not even watching the same thing anymore. Where we were all watching the same screen, everybody is watching 6. Some people are watching 4 things on the phone at the same time and swiping. So clearly, you have seen a big shift, and alternative voices have become exposed, alternative points of view have come up. And an important point is that, we're talking about the media, but this loss of trust is not just a media thing. It's democracy, it's religion, even the church, or the religion, institutional religion, democracy as a concept. All of these things have also suffered. So we must not look at it in isolation, actually, I think. I think we must look at it as, because there are alternatives or alternative voices, it's just a lot easier for questioning voices to come out and to come up, and people can question. And what we've learned is that you only need one voice to question and dismantle an entire system or a body of knowledge. So I think it's the technology thing has completely just, allowed alternative voices to come up in a world where we were used to, arbiters and gatekeepers. A quick example: my Egbon Taiwo Obe, who used to be editor of, he worked with This Week, which came before This Day. He used to fly to London. They would take the copy of This Week, and they would produce, or they would make the edition on Thursday, fly to London, and fly back with the printed copies to sell on Sunday. Now, imagine the amount of money it will take to do that. So there was a high barrier to get into the media. You needed money, you needed, all of that technology and all that. Today, I don't need any money to be media.
You just need a ring light.
I just need it, yeah.
And a TikTok account.
A Substack page or a TikTok account. Yeah. So that technological change, I think, is the biggest influence, I think, that has completely just changed that game.
Yeah. Myroslav, do you think that, because it seems as if modern day audiences have a hard time distinguishing between what is fact and what is opinion, especially when it comes from someone that they probably revere as like a political leader or a thought leader. Do you think that media platforms have a responsibility to the audience to help them distinguish what is fact and what is opinion?
Totally. Thank you. First of all, I want to say that it's a great honor for me to be here, and privilege because my country is in a state of and I can talk with people in different countries, and this is really reasonable, and it's really I'm thinking about this every time, how much people in Ukraine have no this opportunity to talk with audience, to live in hotel because they are sitting in trenches and something like this. But they are sitting in trenches, and everybody, even they have also artillery guns, howitzers, everything like this. They also have this small thing, yes, a screen. And as for me, that's the main problem of recent times, because I was talking about this with colleagues before this panel, that we lost this opportunity to make our own reflection. Yes, when earlier we had this time from our home to our working place, yes, for example, an hour. And we were not just playing games, looking for some images and something like this. We had this real time for reflection. What does it mean, reflection? That means that our brain, our intelligence, something like this, became more and more stronger. And I think that humanity now is very weak, if to say about truth and some misconceptions. That's why we as authors, as a journalist, we should say about this responsibility. But how to solve this? Yes, I have no idea. I have no idea. That's why, as for me, before the full-scale invasion in 2022, I was a poet. Yes, I had some publications even in English magazine, something like this. But now I'm working in this field because I feel this lack of truth. Yes, when I'm talking about truth, I'm not talking just about facts. Yes, I'm talking about real emotions, because me as a humanities studying student, I was reading, I really liked this storytelling about the First World War, Second World War. I have read really a lot of memoirs and something like this, but the things that I saw by my eyes, I'm talking about emotions. They are totally different, yes? And we should, as for me, I feel my role in this process like a translator, yes? You translate this reality into the reality of, I'm not talking just about foreigners, yes? I'm talking just also about the people who lives in Kyiv, for my mother who lives in much more or less safety Western Ukraine, yes? Because, for example, 1 month ago, we had an expedition to frontline city Kherson. It's a total kill zone. What does it mean, kill zone? That you could be killed by everything, by a rifle, by a launch bomb, by howitzers, by everything, yes? And before visiting this city, I really had a lot of misconceptions, yes? That everything is, the life is in basement, total in basements, yes? Or under these drone nets, yes? You could Google what does it mean, drone nets, yes? It's horrible. But when we visited this city, I was totally shocked. Because, yes, everything is totally dangerous, but we visited a bar and we had Aperol Spritz.
People were going to drink? Wow. Shayo. People were going to the bar, like the bar was open.
It's 50,000 people. 50,000 people, 1 kilometer from a front line. They are alive. Most of them are pensioners, and a lot of them are young people, also children. Yes, these children, they are playing in basements, they are jumping, they are doing boxing and something like this. They are alive.
I guess that also speaks to the human ability to adapt to anything. Mm-hmm. I think that speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, yes.
But it's also about psychiatry.
Yes. I'll come back to that. So this question is for both of you. One of the central roles that media plays, particularly in a democracy, is civic engagement and holding governments to account. What do you think happens to that role? How does decline of trust in the media affect its role as, like an accountability watchdog in a democracy?
Okay. So I think what I would say is that the mainstream media also has its own failings, which we have seen again and again and again, whether it's in the coverage of what's happening in Gaza or, go back any of the major wars or conflicts, So I think it's what's always long overdue that there will be a reckoning of sorts for even what we call mainstream media. Because, one of the things that I think many of us came of age assuming that if, as I said, if NTA or CNN said it, it has to be true. And it was a very sort of like deeply unspoken, deeply felt thing that, look, if CNN says it, I worship the Economist style of writing.
Yes.
Yeah? And somehow I transferred that excellence in style to also mean excellence of opinion or fact. But then as you get older, you now start to see some things in the Economist about, say, Nigeria, that they've gotten completely wrong. And you now start to ask yourself, if they can get Nigeria wrong, what else are they getting wrong that I don't know of, about places I know nothing of? So I think that, it's and there are many examples of this. I've searched the New York Times, you go and search and see what they've covered about Nigeria. You will barely see anything positive. Barely. Are they doing anything bad? Not necessarily, but omission, there's omission. So can you look at the New York Times and say you get a sense of what Nigeria is today? Maybe not. So I think that reckoning was also always long overdue. And it's exciting that we can have alternative voices that can also show us other aspects. The example I'll just give, look at that video, that very sad video last week of the church we saw that video live. We saw it. I know people, one of the images that stood out to people was the old woman who was trying to make her to escape. But imagine if this was a newspaper story. It would just be another church, a church was attacked in some village or whatever, But we have come to that place where, because of technology and social media, we can see, going back to Palestine, some of the images we have seen are not stuff that the mainstream media would. Because we have learned also that what we call the mainstream media is also agendas. Yeah. There are people paying, advertisers, sponsors, owners, what's his name? Rupert Murdoch. Yeah. Before it's media, it's business for him, for example.
But do you think, sorry to cut you short, but do you think that maybe a focus on community and local-led journalism could counter some of this agenda reporting about events anywhere in the world?
Because it's a business for many people. There's not a lot of, and if you look at, in the US, one of the big complaints is that many of the community papers are dying out because, in fact, I think, they're dying out and being replaced. There's some guy in the US, I think, who is using AI to just do newspapers, for example. So obviously, because people are targeting advertisers. If you're a community newspaper, what advertiser is coming to put money in they want sort of the big platforms, yeah. So for me, I think the point I just want to make is that we need to understand it's about understanding how the world works, and that when you see a big media organization, you don't necessarily assume that what you are getting is the full picture.
That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting. In France, I think maybe it's all the same in many countries. When you're a conservative, you're going to read a conservative magazine. Yeah. When you're on the left wing, you read a left wing magazine. So it will be read something according to your point of view, and you're very happy. This is okay. Right? This is a fact. Okay. Both we have Le Figaro, Libération, Le Monde in France, both very good magazines, newspapers. But I think to have a little bit of the fact, you have to read all the newspapers. You have to contradict yourself. And what I try to do is always listen to people I don't agree with. I always listen to my enemies, people I hate, I disagree, because I know that when I learn something I don't know, and I don't want to know because it's not very comfortable to me. It won't soothe me. It won't put me in a nice place. Oh, you're right, Colombe. You're so right. You're so nice, and you're so kind. No, okay, and you're so smart. So it always go, on the opposition. And also, I wanted to react to what you said, Myroslav, about these children playing in the basement, and that you're a poet. And maybe there's some truth. We're all looking for some truth, and we never find it. It's anywhere, not in the newspaper. We're always wrong. But maybe in this basement, children playing, there's some truth, because the emotion is real. And I wanted to say something I forgot because I was so moved by this.
Okay, we'll come back. Gather your thoughts. So, Myroslav, we spoke about this alternative. We've been speaking about alternative sources. Do you think that alternative sources have led to a more fragmented world, or have they led to, quote unquote, more truth to the people?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Yes, that means that we are living in different bubbles. Even, for example, in Ukraine, as I told. Yes, when, for example, I live in Kyiv, and my mother thinks that it's a front line for her. Yeah, but for me, it's dangerous because it's a permanent shelling by drones and ballistics and something like this. But I'm trying to think about my friends who are in trenches, yes? And very often, yes, when we are talking about this, according to your previous question also, about these opinions, yes? In Ukraine, it's very popular to subscribe and to follow some opinion leaders because, and I don't think that it's so bad. Yes, because it's about a person. Yes, we believe as a people. Yes, it's really hard to say about truth now because we want to talk about some big systems. Yes, and as I realized, for example, when you're talking with soldiers, yes, with volunteer soldiers, and you ask them the same questions. Yes, why are you fighting for? What is your values? And every time I have very different answers. Yeah, sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it's very complicated. Yes, because somebody, for example, wanted to skip this war and something like this, and they, for example, lost their younger brother. Yes, and they are fighting. Yes, and I understand this. And if you want to find, yes, people try to find somebody to believe. Because if to say about some media, it's about system, and system makes a lot of mistake. And if you want to investigate why they do it, yes, sometimes the answers are very, very rude. Yes, because it's about money, it's about power. Yes, it's about, very often it's also about sexist. Yes, because they don't let women have their voices. Yes,
I like that you brought up the issue of sexism, because I just realized that when you open like a TikTok account or an Instagram account, it takes approximately like 2 hours. If you're a woman, the algorithm starts pushing misandrist content to you. If you're a man, the algorithm deliberately done by these companies to make sure and women are fighting each other over nonsense. Like you that brings me to you, Tolu. You feel that the rise of all these alternative sources of blogs and all these VDM, all these crazy people, I feel like they have actually, if there is Rattel here, just mind yourself. We'll beat you. But I do feel like the rise of all these parties has actually led to, one, very poor discourse on national issues, and two, a more fragmented Nigeria. I think when these people did not exist, it was easier to convince your fellow Nigerian on the other side. It was easier to have a conversation or agree to disagree. With that in mind, do you think that our country can recover from this like fragmentation that it's just it keeps growing?
So beyond what they have done, or these alternative sources have done by themselves, there's also what they have done to what we call mainstream media. Because today, you will see some posts on so-called big newspapers. I think there was something I saw the Nation handle on X posted, and I'm like, is this Nation or Instablog? Because so actually what happens now is that it's a race to the bottom now. Everybody we're competing for the same audience. So whether you're Instablog, whether you're VDM, whether you're The Nation, whether you're This Day, everybody is basically looking for the most. So you're going to see even the mainstream newspapers putting up things like, should a man, who should pay for the date?
It's so annoying.
You
can imagine a respected newspaper, I'm calling them out.
Yeah, no, call them.
You can sue me, but I'm calling them out.
Yes, you should.
Yes, The Guardian.
Yes.
How do you build decades of credibility and integrity, and then you start asking me, should a man pay all the bills?
Yeah.
What nonsense.
But you have to understand.
And Nigeria has actual newsworthy things.
Yeah, but you have to understand what's happening. That now that Elon Musk is paying for views and impressions, it's just a race downhill. So to your point, it's not just what the alternative sources are doing, it's also how they are changing how everybody else is behaving. So all of us now are conditioned to, what is that thing we can say or post that will get the most views? It's that's what it's about.
I think it's called clickbait.
Clickbait. Yeah. And so the danger, of course, is that, and then into this add AI and what it's doing with deep fakes and all that, and we have I'm actually quite worried about where we are going, because it also then means that, to your point about and we would always seek out what we believe in, and it's easier than ever before now to seek out exactly, and the technology, the algorithms also, once they figure out that this is what you want to hear, they serve you a constant feed of what you want to hear. So you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's, maybe in the past, maybe there were ways, maybe there was an advantage to the NTA where it kind of just kept everything, a bit, neither here nor there. But maybe not. I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know if what we have now is better than what we used to have, or, and then your question about how do we have different views, but how do we kind of still believe in certain fundamental ideals? And I think that's the challenge that we all face now. That, whether you are for abortion or against abortion, whether you are for vaccines or against vaccines, whether you are for whatever it is, are there certain things that we can all kind of come together on? And one of the most important of which is the ability to respect other people's opinions, even when they are not aligned with yours. Or the fact, for example, that, the humanity, the essential humanity of one another, and so because this person doesn't vote the way that I do, they're evil, or because they don't believe, I think we have to get to a point where we decide what are the non-negotiables that we need to unite on, and what are the things that are open to, look, you can, and then, importantly, I think the last point is our beliefs have consequences. Yes. So if you don't believe
can you say that again for the people and the obedience in the back?
Beliefs have consequences.
Thank you.
If you don't believe in vaccines, for example, if you don't believe in vaccines, and there's a whole anti-vaxxer movement now where people are not even taking measles vaccines, it has implications for, so it's also about letting people know that for everything you choose to believe in, there is a consequence of sorts, and then it's up to you to then decide whether you want to live with that consequence or not.
I really wish that the headline from this panel would be beliefs have consequences. I feel like everybody should put that on their fridge every morning. Beliefs have consequences. Because like you were saying about vaccines, if you refuse to vaccinate your children, you are a danger to society.
Not
to society. To everybody, you are a problem. You are, God bless you. Okay, that's the subhead. You are a terrorist if you do not vaccinate your children. Yes. Miss Colombe,
Yeah.
outside of regular ethical objectives that media should be guided by, do you think there are new rules that should be put in place? Because we are literally in uncharted territory. I don't think humanity has ever been this assaulted by other people's beliefs and opinions. Like, it's constant. Do you think that we need new rules of engagement?
I think the question is, how do we resist? It's a question I'm asking myself and everyone here. How do we resist? We all, I think, have the same. We know what's happening now because of this festival. So how do we resist? How do we inform ourselves? Before I came, I was so happy to be invited in Nigeria. I never went to Nigeria, so I began to read newspapers about what's happening in Nigeria.
You should have called me. Don't read the newspapers. Next time, call me. Or Tolu, or Lola.
So I have the French newspapers, or they talking about the kidnapping, of course, and corruption. But I was very frustrated because when I arrived here, it is a country that's much more rich than that. You had art. I know there were very good art fair and artists and musicians and literature. I read Shivamada and Ngozi Adichie, like everyone in the world. But I need more than that. So I went to the bookstore and I bought these very, very short books from Chinua Achebe. Okay? So I will know more about your country and how. And there's one story. This is in the 60s, and during apartheid in South Africa, he was living in Germany. He had a friend who was a very prominent German judge, and this German judge wanted to go for his retirement in Namibia, in South Africa, But he read the newspapers. He knew what's happening in South Africa, but it didn't go into his head because he was looking at the beautiful scenery, the beautiful, land, and he didn't want to know about apartheid. And then he read one of his fiction. No, it's a fiction from Chinua Achebe, and then suddenly he understand what's happening. And I think one of the resistance is fiction. It's poetry. Because when you read fiction, when you read poetry, you inside the heart of someone who is not you, who doesn't think like you, who don't have the same experience as you, who maybe is against vaccines. But what's inside? Why would think such a foolish thing? I don't know if you read the incredible novel by Joyce Carol Oates about abortion, when she's inside someone who kills an abortion a doctor who performs abortion. Why would you think such nonsense? And I think when you read fiction, you are able to resist, to oppose, and to seek the truth. The truth is not very simple. The truth is not very comfortable. It's multiple of reasons. Of course, people who are against vaccines are crazy. Why? Why would you think that? Why? Maybe if you read a work of fiction, I'm sure there is where someone is against. It's afraid of vaccine. They think it's awful. It will kill his children. Why would you think that?
Because they're in a cult. I feel like it's cultism to say, honestly. Okay, not Nigerian cultism, please, hello. But the actual English meaning of cults. Like, these people are so dedicated to being a menace to society. They will fight you over it. I think also we should talk about how we can deprogram people
to
from
challenge that. I was going to challenge, and when you talked about the vaccine thing, I wanted to challenge that because I think putting ourselves in the shoes of other people, I think is super important. When people, we think of people who say they don't want vaccines as crazy people, yeah? But we've also seen what happened with Pfizer in Kano. We've seen what happened with thalidomide in the 60s. We've seen what, even with, what's the Oxycontin, not Ozempic. The one in the US.
Ozempic is not a vaccine.
The one in the US that wiped out the entire. Yeah, so there was that, but there's also the the big pharmaceutical company in the US that has the Sachs family.
Oh, yes.
Oxycontin.
Oxycontin.
Yeah. So
yes.
all of those opioids.
The Sacha family. Yes.
Yeah, the opioids. These are multi-billion-dollar companies that have pursued. I saw a documentary on the opioid thing. They were paying doctors to prescribe these things that wiped out the entire family. So, next time, so I guess the point is that, people, when somebody says, I'm against vaccines, we may think them mad, but there's probably a point about pausing to see how they came to that place. Because we have seen the same companies making those vaccines. We have seen what they've done in the name of, so for me, it's about putting, just to challenge that, they are mad. How about...
Yes.
The truth is never comfortable. It's never, this is a big, mean, I don't know, someone. It's more difficult than that. It's more,
It is. I think as human beings, we have a problem with accepting complexity. On the plane, you and I, we were talking about how in Nigeria, the insecurity affects everyone, but in the US, it's Christian only. And it's, so we do not I think our brains prefer simplicity. So things that are complex, we tend to oversimplify them. And I think that also seeps into how media, no matter how neutral, it seeps into how media explains things to people, which brings me to my next question for the panel. You can start. Do you think that the audience has a role to play in ensuring certain journalistic standards within mainstream media?
An audience?
Yes, do you think that the audience has a role to play in ensuring...
Yeah, I think so,
standards?
because that's the only thing that could save us as a human beings. Yes, I was talking about this critical thinking, critical reflection on everything, and there is, as we were talking about this, yes, but I want to, but I want to add something to Colombe was talking, because it's in this way. Yes, we should improve ourselves. We should improve our emotions. We should improve not just our intelligence, yes, but also our emotions. Became better persons. Yeah. At least it looks a little bit simple and stupid, yes. Because also I remember in my university we were talking about good and evil. It's not possible and something like this. But if you face death very close, if you face losses, yes, you understand how simple are some ideas. Yes, very often we try to sophisticate it, to find some other ways. Yes, but very often everything is very, very, very simple. There is aggressor and there is a victim. Yes, there is a man who wants to force, yes, somebody not to talk. Yes, do you remember, for example, this? I am not sure that it's a good place to talk about this. But for example, Miss Universe context. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, just this. It's so simple. A part of this community stood up and went away. Yes, and others were in silence.
So what? Just to quickly conclude, because we're running out of time. 3 things that audiences can do to ensure journalistic standards.
Oh, it's
Number one.
It's so hard. It's so hard to say, but I want to complete this. What Colombe said about power of fiction and poetry.
Yeah.
Before, as I said, before the full-scale invasion, I was a poet. Yes, and journalism was something new for me. And the first 2 rules that I studied, yes, about working as a journalist. Just 2 things. Say truth, yes, and do not harm.
Do not harm.
Yeah, and I understood several days ago, I understood that it's not just about journalism. It's about everything. It's about poetry. It's about me here talking to you, yes? And if to talk about this responsibility...
We can talk later, we are losing time. We will talk later. Me and you will talk later over a nice plate of steak. So, Ms. Colombe, Three things quickly. Three things that we can do to ensure journalistic standards.
You know, I read that the most important jihad in the Quran is against yourself. So fight against yourself and the prejudiced ideas you have. Read as much possible different newspaper, especially people you disagree with. Newspaper you disagree, you know? Enlarge yourself, doubt. Go places that you're not sure of, you know? Doubt a lot.
Yeah. Mr. Tolu?
And in this age of technology, we have to be more questioning. Like just, before you forward that headline, a woman,
our WhatsApp aunties and uncles, are you hearing?
The first Nigerian woman in space. The first Nigerian woman to go to space comes and does an interview 2 hours long about being an astronaut and all that. And the last question is, do you cook for your husband? And then the answer is, oh, I cook for my... And then the headline is what? I cook for my husband, first female astronaut says. And then that's the headline you see. So the lesson, I think, from all of this is that next time we see headlines, we should pause, and where is the story? Yeah, I think for me, that's one of the biggest lessons from this, that don't jump on headlines, pause, go and look for the...
WhatsApp aunties and uncles. Yeah. I hope you heard. Read the story, not just the headline.
Otherwise, you are going to think that, and then you're going to start attacking the woman that, how can you, and then it becomes a conversation about should you cook for your husband or not. Meanwhile...
Why are Nigerian husbands so hungry? What is the problem? Okay, so I'm opening it up for Q&A. No, seriously, LS, we need to have a panel about these men are hungry. All right, no. Okay, hands. There's a lovely lady in black there. Keep it brief.
I will do. Thank you so much. I mean, obviously, we've all been thinking about truth. The festival headline is reclaiming truth. And I think sometimes we kind of think, well, things must have been better before. And I don't necessarily think they were, because this inflection point is essential for us to improve things for a better world. In a way, we all lived under a one truth before, the one media company, the only corporation that sent the news. Then we went through the recent fake news, and now we're in this post-truth stage. So maybe the reclaiming truth is the next stage we're going through. I wanted to ask a couple of things of all of you, but first of all is the polarization debate, and how do journalists, in their attempt to be neutral, sometimes actually fuel the polarization debate? And how do we go beyond the headlines and baiting? I think, Myroslav, you're absolutely right. We have to improve ourselves, and we need to think beyond belief to morality. And what are the journalistic standards for starting a human value-centered reporting approach? What are journalists doing to actually hold their media corporations to account? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tolu. I want to ask this question to you. Don't you think what we call today, because it is based on the story you give us here, that in 1995, when it is 9 o'clock, all of us, we must watch NTA. And that's true, even up to 2005, I think. So my question is, don't you think what we are experiencing now is not a loss of trust in the mainstream media, but a liberation from the monopoly of mainstream media, where whatever they cook and sold to us cannot be challenged? And for example, just a day, some hours after the conviction and sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu, sorry if you find my language to be foul, but I will call him a belligerent American congressman, reference that particular sentencing as evidence of persecution of Christians in Nigeria. So don't you think, if this is not in an era of media liberation where we can constantly challenge that, Imagine this was said in 1995, and medias like the New Yorker, the New York Times reported it. How could we have countered this particular narrative? Thank you.
There's a question, Joe.
Great panel. Still on, and again, to you, Tolu, do you think that it's really, and I think for all the panelists, do you think it's true that there's ever really been that much global trust in mainstream media? Because I remember growing up and thinking part of being an adult was going to the junction where they sell newspaper to have those really aggressive arguments. I don't know what they were arguing about. Yeah, but they would stand by the newspaper and they would debate everything. But the quality of the debate we seem to have now is so, and which is why I agree with the idea that we may need to do more work on ourselves. So the question is it really a loss of trust in the mainstream media or a loss of capacity to deal with the mainstream media? Because the mainstream media will always be mainstream. It will focus on doing what makes the most money for them. But the people who it's sold to need to have the capacity to respond to that in a way that protects their interests. Does it seem like we are losing the capacity to respond to the mainstream media doing what it always does? And so the effect is worse.
Okay, yeah. To the point about, yes, absolutely. I'm with you on that. That we shouldn't. Our nostalgia, our human nostalgia, always assumes that the past was better. Because it was, that's how we are wired. It was always better. I saw an article about crime statistics in Lagos in 1980. It was, look, today, Lagos, 1980, even the ships coming into the harbor were not safe. There were bands of pirates in 1980 who were waiting in the dark to attack ships and boats coming into the harbor. And gangs of 30 robbers invading estates and homes. And, so nostalgia, obviously, we always think the past is better. But to your point, I think I would take a lot of what we have today. The ability, as I said, to be able to question. When Rodney King happened in 1991, the guy who filmed it had to do a lot of work to convince a TV station to show it. There was a chance that tape would never have seen the light of day. Today, those things are not possible. It's a lot more difficult to hide. You can't hide that kind of stuff, So I take it that, yes, I think what we have, where people can speak up, where it's easier for, and the gatekeepers are essentially powerless. I think it's a better way forward than what we used to have. It's just that, of course, every move forward is not always like a perfect move. There will always be downsides and all that. You move forward 2 steps, but there's a 1 step backwards. That kind of stuff. Yeah. And then
Yes. What's the question of individual resistance? And this is a very important, that we were talking about. How do you resist yourself? You're not convince someone else, but you can resist. And how do you do it? How do you think? How do you doubt? How you confront things? And this is a very individual question, and you're right. It's this capacity of resistance because of the telephone, because of social media is big. So my brain is a bit pourri, it's in English. It's a bit rotten, but my telephone, it's going by Instagram, and I'm like, how is on Instagram looking at my feed, and if I have a like, so my brain is less and less intelligent and open, and so I have to remove the Instagram from my telephone too, So it's really a question of individual resistance, and how you do it yourself.
There was a hand up. Okay, yeah.
Hi, good evening, panelists. Okay. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this panel discussion. I had a question about literacy. I was wondering, how does literacy or rather the lack of, play a part in identifying misinformation. And by literacy, I don't just mean understanding words, but like the whole language, understanding words in a context. I remember being in school and, the way you can identify a reputable source is, how did they spell this and what does it mean in this context? And I feel like there is a lack of literacy skills, and that is affecting how people receive information and are able to identify misinformation.
I would like to speak up because it's very interesting. This idea that when you have a very good education, you resist better, But what I read in this book, we are speaking of this very German judge, very highly educated German judge. He was reading newspapers, he met people, but he couldn't understand what's happening for real in South Africa. And of course, education is an answer, but it's not enough. It's a very personal question to be able to doubt and to overthink and to resist yourself.
Also, I just want to add to what she said. I think there's also like a societal need for insisting on people knowing comprehension. I think we have a national problem, in fact, a national emergency in this country regarding comprehension skills. People just do not understand simple messages in simple English, and their bias colors their interpretation of information. So I think also maybe policymakers and governments need to look into investing in from primary school up all the way. There was a hand over here. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Mr. Tolu. My question is, what is it that we in Nigeria, we normally use the words as an example instead of the excellence? For instance, all the media houses you mentioned now are not the best in Nigeria. We have done far, far better than that. Because there's one award in Nigeria, I'm a journalist, there's one award we look out for, Nigerian Media Merit Award. There's only somebody has been winning it in this country, and it's a family paper. Nobody has buy them. There's one station in this country, TV station has won it 11 times.
13, sir.
13 now.
Yes, sir.
And nobody has bought their conscience. I know the owner very, very well. He was my colleague in NTA before he left with his wife. So why is that we always use the words instead of looking at the excellence? And those media houses are very, very credible. In fact, as a journalist, you dream of working in those media houses because they're also the test of time. And we know they're ranking outside this country. Why? We always use the words instead of looking at the excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Auntie Joker, you had your hand up.
One of them is a comment, and then the other is a question. The comment is that, for us in Nigeria, I think we always trusted our mainstream media until 2012, until what happened with the elections. Sorry, not 2012. What happened with the elections, the annulment of the elections, sorry. June 12th. June 12th. I knew there was a 12 somewhere.
It's June 12th, 1994.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was when we stopped, because before then, our mainstream media were really very objective. They used to balance everything. And then we lived through a time when they were reporting news, and we living in the society were witnessing something totally different. And I think we lost faith in our mainstream from then on. I haven't regained my faith in NTA since then. They've really got to do a lot of work to get back my faith in that.
I hope they are listening.
I hope so. But so it was just that comment, and so it's really easy for the other media houses to overtake them. So that's the comment. Now the question is this: there's something happening nowadays that in my generation, I don't know how to handle it. I mean, I've learned how to. I learned how to use BlackBerry. I learned how to use WhatsApp. I learned how to use Instagram. Now they are saying I must learn how to use TikTok. It's okay. I will learn. But what is annoying is that I now see posts. People are sending me posts of things that I said that I never said. And they sign it with my name at the end of it. And first of all, it was my husband dying when he didn't. And then it was, then after that it was, but now it is some people who have this sense of the Stepford wives fantasy. And then they will put my picture there and sign my name. How do you fight that?
You can report them. I will show you after the panel.
Thank you.
We report. Because I remember seeing, again, these Nigerian men are hungry. I remember seeing a long post, but I know you, so I know you never said that. They say that you are always pounding yam for daddy. I know it's a lie. It's a big lie. I will show you later. Don't worry. Any other question? Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm a first-time attendee. I really appreciated this panel of just people talking. I'm not sure the word, but as a young journalist, speaking as myself, there's this weird line you're supposed to toe, where you're working under conglomerates. You're working under the media houses to gain legitimacy. Can you, at the same time, because there's this responsibility that falls on the audience to become more literate, like that lady said, can you, on the side, kind of independently, as you're growing your brand, show other people how to interpret? So as you're doing the work of producing the news, you're also on the back end doing the work of teaching people how to interpret it? Or is that too much work? Do you partner with civil organizations, stuff like that?
I'll answer that. I used to be at the BBC, and one of the things that we were taught is that you enlighten, you entertain, and you educate. And part of educating your audience is teaching your audience how to separate things, how to understand even, how to understand things like context and nuance and all that. I think the fine line, the weird line you're talking about is your own personal ethics. To be committed to doing the right thing all the time. And I know it's not easy. Even when I was a journalist, it wasn't easy. I can only imagine how hard it is now. Because now in Nigeria, everything is about money. But if, as a young journalist, I would like to encourage you, commit to doing the right thing and commit to your responsibility to your audience. They deserve to be educated and they deserve to be enlightened by your work.
One of the things I'm seeing on social media these days, like on X, is when somebody comes out with a story about somebody else, I've started to see more and more people say, let's hear the other side. It's kind of, and that's because people have seen again and again that, first to talk, Naimbi, that's the winner. But people are now starting to question that. So I'm hoping that all of this chaos and confusion will take us to a point. So for example, hopefully we'll get to a point where the people that are doing this thing in your name will not stop, but the people consuming it will start asking, the moment they see it, so I find people, they will send me things sometimes and I'm like, how can this kind of thing have happened there? And the only mention of it is in this WhatsApp post that you are sending to me. Have you checked? Just go online. And then that's where I now mention the mainstream names. How will Daily Trust, how will Sun not have at least mentioned it, So those are the things that hopefully we'll get to a point, because I'm like, this momentous thing you are saying has happened, and it's just on WhatsApp that, you know what I mean? And it's just on WhatsApp that is going to, So I hope that the confusion will take all of us to a point where we will say, look, let us scatter this whole thing and start again. And that starting again, what I mean is we will start to ask questions. You see a video, instead of forwarding, the first thing is that, is this video AI or not? And then we need to also then educate, there's a lot of work to do for media literacy, educating ourselves about should we, why should I believe this? Who is saying this? I've seen that Ngozi Okonjo, where every quarter, they put something in her mouth that she has to come and say, I didn't say it.
And it's always about cooking for her husband. So I'm upset. People are laughing.
We have to get to a place where we will just become more and more questioning of all the things that we consume. And I'm hoping that that's what the chaos will lead us to.
Yeah, so we're out of time. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We are out of time. Please don't beat me when you see me outside. It's not my fault. I will report you to Auntie Joke. I cannot cook. I declare. And we had a successful panel. NEPA did not take lights. I'm so proud of my panelists.
Thank you so much.
We did so good.
Thank you so much, Fatty. Thank you, Myroslav. Thank you, Colombe. Thank you so much, Tolu. I just want to say very quickly, because there is a list here. I want to kind of gather